Okay, Ani Ledodi, the Rebbe's Ani Ledodi in Maamar Melukat Chele Gimel, page Reis Samachei, 3 lines in the end of the page. Okay, in Dalud, the Rebbe was explaining that there's the Yira Tata and Yira Ilah. Elul is Yira Tata, the lower level of Yira. Elul is the higher, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is the higher level of Yira. So he says, what's the difference? Yira Tata is the meditation into the way Hashem. Meditation in the way Hashem is Mamala Kol Alma, Sefer Kol Alma, this Einoid Movadi basically. But why is that Yira Tata? Because that's based on the intellect of a person. If it's based on the intellect of the person, it has to be limited based on the intellect of the person. So it's not Yira Ilah is like the king coming out into the field. Melo Basada, when the king comes out into the field, so that's a gift from above that comes after the lower level of Yira. You did your part, then you get the gift from above, like we learned yesterday. Okay, so he says now, Yesh Leimar, therefore you could say, so why do you need to blow Shofar Rosh Hashanah if you blew it the whole Elul? He says, because the Shofar of Rosh Hashanah, which is already a certain Tshuva, that's to come to the higher level of Yira. Yira Ilah. Av sha'azuz man is galus machusi is barich. Even though l'cha'ira, it's Rosh Hashanah itself is Binyan HaMalchus. Rosh Hashanah itself is the revelation of Hashem is Melech, 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 Melech. So why do we need Shofar if there's the Gilui Momaila coming from the king to be king? Avshi's man is Galus Machusi is Barich. Hainu Shebizman the Rosh Hashanah mitzad atzmei. In the time of Rosh Hashanah itself, Mer begili Arim is the Ein Sof L'mayla Me'elim is, which itself is high, level of Elokus higher than world. So the question is, if it's a gift from above, why do we need to blow shofar? Which is the Avodah of down here, Avodah Momata. If anyway there's a Gilim Momaila from above. So he says, Kizman, the reason for this is, Kizman Megidra Ha'ilm. Time and place are under the jurisdiction, so it's under the gather, the limitation of time and place. Time is also limited. Like we learned, the famous question of the Maggid, why did Hashem create the world when he did? Why didn't he create it earlier? And the bottom line answer is because time began when the world did. So Zman is dependent on creation, on time and place. Therefore, Hareim is the Ein Sof, the Mishem is Gala Rosh Hashanah. This, that Elokus is revealed on Rosh Hashanah. Mitzad Hazman, the Rosh Hashanah, because of Rosh Hashanah, who Shaykh La'ilmis. Therefore, it's automatically connected. In other words, why does Elokus reveal itself in Rosh Hashanah? That means it doesn't happen now. It doesn't happen today. It happens Rosh Hashanah. That means it's under the jurisdiction, so to speak, of time. So it's definitely a Gilui of Elokus connected to world, because it's coming into world at a certain time. In fact, at the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, we learned this many times. Mamish at the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, when the Alter Rebbe speaks about this for him, Tikkun Chatzos, do all the midnight stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
Why? Because it's an Eis Ratzon. It's an auspicious time. So in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe asks, but Chatzos in California is 3 hours behind New York, which is 10 hours behind Israel. So, when is the Eis Ratzon? When is the, or Shabbos, for that matter. Yeah, when it's Shabbos here, it's already Sunday on the other side of the dateline. So, and they start Shabbos a day earlier, so to speak. So, when is this Gilui of Elokus? So in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe says that this Gilui is above time and place. When the place becomes Shabbos, that revelation comes down. When it becomes Chatzos, the revelation comes down. When it becomes Rosh Hashanah, the revelation comes down. But the fact that it's coming down into time and place, into world on Rosh Hashanah, shows it's connected to the world.
Rabbi, didn't we learn that Gilui of Rosh Hashanah
is from below to higher.
Correct.
And Passover is from above to below.
Correct. But in each one you got both. In each one you got both. Even by Pesach, yeah, it was a revelation from above. But the Jews had to take the korban Pesach, tie it to the bed. They had to shecht it. They had to sprinkle the blood on the doorpost. That was their avodah. In order for Hashem at midnight to, Hashem hiko kol b'chor, there had to still be the avodah before. But over there, the primary thing is the revelation from above. But it also has avodah from below. Tishrei is, mamata l'maylo, but still there is revelations from above too. You have both things. The question is, what is primary and secondary? So he said, Vagili der Ein Sof, Kamesho Kodesh Movdo Me'elamis, but this level of revelation of the infinite level of Hashem is Be'ikar Aidei Mitzvahs. It's primarily through the level of mitzvahs. Asher Kitshanu b'mitzvahs, that he sanctified us with mitzvahs. V'kiv and Tekir Shefer b'Rosh Hashanah is also a mitzvah. Hayir v'acharada mikol ha-shefer. Therefore, he says like this: the revelation of above by itself is connected to time and place. But because shefer is a mitzvah, and a mitzvah connects the Jew to the level of a lokus, which is higher than world. So really, in essence, the revelation of shefer as a mitzvah is a revelation higher than time and place. The revelation of Rosh Hashanah by itself without shefer. You know, the Rebbe is asking, if it's a revelation from above, on Rosh Hashanah, why do we need to blow shefer on Rosh Hashanah?
You're there.
You're there already. So the Rebbe explains the revelation of Rosh Hashanah by itself, without shefer, is connected to time and place. It's coming in on this particular day. But when you have the mitzvah aspect of shefer, mitzvah connects. Asher Kitshanu b'mitzvahs, mitzvah connects to the infinite level of Elokus. So he says, the kivin should kill shefer Rosh Hashanah is a mitzvah. Therefore, a year of acharad, the fear and the awesomeness, mikol ha-shefer Rosh Hashanah is yireh betel betachlis yireh ilah. So the Rebbe is explaining what makes the yireh ilah a revelation higher than world. That's the mitzvah of shefer. In Elul, it's not a mitzvah. So shefer is the avodah of the Jew. That's yireh tato, as much as world can handle. Then you have the shefer. So if Rosh Hashanah is revelation of what do you need shefer for? Because the revelation of Elokus is limited, based on world, on which day of the year, month it is. But when it becomes the mitzvah of shefer, then it's a different story. But okay. Now we can add, based on this, we can add an explanation. The fear that Elul, the shefer of Elul stimulates is only yireh tato, the lower level of yireh. Maybe the yireh atzuma kazu betul metzias yireh ilah is because of the mitzvah of tkir shefer. And he says, since tkir shefer ba'elul ain't a mitzvah, it's just a minig, ve'in mevarchen al zashe kitshanu b'mitzvah. So therefore, a yid of abit abba mikol shefer da'elul, the bittul that comes from shefer of elul, is only bittul ayesh. Like we explained yesterday, I have my own will, but I just give it up for you. That's yireh tato. Ala'afa became nevertheless. This lower level of yirah is akdam of achana liyirah ilah Rosh Hashanah. Is a preparation to come to the level of Rosh Hashanah. Ki b'chadei level liyirah ilah, in order to come to the higher level. That einoid movadei, you need first to understand that there's something we don't understand. So first you have the avodah of the Jew, Yira Tata, Shofar of Elul, and then you come to the Shofar of Rosh Hashanah. And like we said, everybody physically, Shofar of Elul doesn't cause the same awe and fear that Rosh Hashanah, for some reason. The Shofar of Rosh Hashanah is more awesome than the Shofar of Elul. Why? Because this is a mitzvah, this isn't a mitzvah. This is Yirei Ilah, because that's one mitzvah you connect to the total gift from above, the infinite level of Okus, versus the Minhag of Elul, that it's B'Dal Hayesh, Yirei Tata. And the Rebbe explains it interesting in many places. That's why Erev Rosh Hashanah we don't blow, right? In Shulchan Aruch it says you don't blow Erev Rosh Hashanah. So Shulchan Aruch it says the reason is to mix up the Satan. Satan here is Shofar whole Elul, and then all of a sudden Erev Rosh Hashanah you don't blow. So he said, okay, Rosh Hashanah passed already, I'm going on vacation. The Satan, you know. But it's obvious. How stupid is he already? Let him look on the calendar. I mean, this is going on for 5,780, almost 85 years. You don't think he caught on by now? So the Rebbe explains that this level of mixing up the Satan doesn't mean he won't know. It means when the Satan sees that Jews blew shofar the whole Elul, they had this Yira Tata, the whole... he says, okay, the Jews already did tshuva. There's nothing left for me to do. Not to mix him up, he should think Rosh Hashanah passed. The Satan should understand, Satan understands that, wow, the Jews finished this Yira Tata. So in a certain respect, the shofar of not blowing shofar at Rosh Hashanah is higher than the shofar of Elul. Another sikh, not for now, but another sikh that Rabbi explained, the first day of Rosh Chodesh Elul, you blow privately. It's Islamic to learn. The Rabbi explains that is even a higher level of shofar. Whatever, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Hey, remember what you wanted or not yet?
It's coming back. He's still asleep.
No. But now, okay, so Elul is Yirei Tata, and now you come to Rosh Hashanah, Yirei Ilah. How do you come from one level to the next? He says it's known, he quotes from Torah, look at the Torah, that what? It has to be the level of Ahava. It has to be love. So between one Yira and another Yira, you need to have Ahava. To say the Avedahu, because the Aveda is the Chilu, the Chimu, Tchilu. Tchilu in Aramaic is fear. The Chimu is Rachmim, Ahava. So the Aveda is like this. You start with fear, you come to Ahava, you come to a higher level of Ahava, and then you come to the higher level of Yira. It's a process. The Chilu Rishon is Yira Tata. That's like we said, the lower level, the Chilu, first one is Elul Yira Tata, Shofar. And then you have two levels of Ahava. Ahava Zuta, a smaller level of Ahava, Ahava Rabba, and a great level of Ahava. And then you come to the higher level of Yira Ilah. So it's actually a process. Because in order to internalize things, it has to be with a process. You can't just jump, In order to make the second million, you got to first make the first million. You know what I mean? You can't just make the second million before the first million. Or as you can't have, even though, again, like they say, if I would be God, I would make grandkids before kids. Because they're much more enjoyable. You take them when you want, you give them back when you want. It's a pleasure. But you can't get to grandkids without kids. You can't get to a higher level without first having a lower level. Right? So you need first the level of Yira, and then you have two levels of Ava, and then you come to a higher level. Like it says in Pirkei Avos, Imein Yira in Chochma, Imein Chochma in Yira. Right? So what's the chicken and which one's the egg? Right? So there's a lower level of Yira, which brings to Chochma. Chochma brings to Yira. So there's four levels over there, by the way. Even that level. Im ein yira ein chachma, im ein chachma ein yira. So it's 4 levels. There's yira, chachma, and yira. So the Rebbe explains, based on what he calls from Alter Rebbe and Torah and Torah all over the place, that in order to come from one yira to a higher level of yira, you need a level of ava between them, and there's 2 levels of ava. And mizeh, move on. The zeh shemi yira, the Elul, the Tata, the Elul, from the lower level of yira. Born the yira ilah b'Rosh Hashanah, you come to the higher level of yira, is ayidei agdam, so ava. What is again the preparation for the higher level of yira? Is first lower the yira, then you come to ava, and then you come to the ultimate yira. So what's this? So he said yeshuvah is al pi mashakos b'kutu Torah. Based on what the Alter Rebbe says on kutu Torah, melechu basada, when the king is in the field, right? The mashal. When mekabel is kulam b'seiv upon him yafis. Right? 2 levels. He greets everybody with a smile, with countenance, and then also he loosens up. The panim yafis, the panim seicha case, is the level of ava. That's the level of ava. Why is it ava? Because the mekabel es kulam b'seiv panim yafis. Normally, the relationship between a subject and the king is fear. You don't love the king. It's fear of the king. A parent you love. You're supposed to love. A king you fear. So what happens is, but when the king comes into the Melech Basoda, and now the king greets everybody with he's receiving them with ava, with smiling and say, so that's the level of ava. So after the Yira Tata that you go to the field, that's the Aveda Mamata going to the field. Then when you come to the field, the king is Megala from above, the level of Ava. He shows the panim. That reveals like the reflection of water. Love to the king, because when the king shows love to the subjects, then the subjects go back with the ava to the king, they reciprocate with ava to the king. Therefore, the Rebbe says, based on all this, the mashal of the Alter Rebbe, remember the Rebbe is saying there's 4 levels. There's Yira, there's 2 levels of Ava, and then there's Yira Ilah. So he says those are the details of the mashal. Part of this, that the Jews go out to the field, that's Yira Tata. There's 2 levels. Mekabel kulam b'sefer panim yafes, and Mara panim secha keslu kulam. That's the shtei madregas of the chimu, panim yafes, which is ava zuta, and panim shecha kes, which is ava rabba. And then you come to the inyan abaya le'echum malchusay, which is yira ilah. So that's why the Alter Rebbe says all these details in the mashal, because Alter Rebbe is explaining what is the Aveda of Elul. The Aveda of Elul is Mumata Lamaila, Yira Tata, and that's why you have Shefer in Elul, which is Yira Tata. And then you have the king receives everybody, so that's the 2 levels of Ava. And then you go back to the palace, and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, that's again Yira Ilah, but that's the gift from above. So the Rebbe is explaining, the mashal, the Alter Rebbe actually explains the 4 levels of Yira, and in essence it's 2 levels of Shefer. Yira Tata and Yira Ilah. So in Rosh Hashanah it's a whole different level of Shefer. And he says, Av Shadari say Yira the Elul is lower than the Yira of Rosh Hashanah. Like we said, look, that's Yira Ilah, right? Yira of Elul is Yira Tata, and Yira of Rosh Hashanah is Yira Ilah. So l'chayr it's lower. Mikama came Yeshmaila by Yira the Elul over the year of Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe always did that. No matter, you learn Chassidus, so it says, you learn Rosh Hashanah, it explains Rosh Hashanah is the greatest Yom Tov. You learn about Yom Kippur is the greatest Yom Tov. You learn about Sukkot, greatest. You learn about Tu B'Shvat, the greatest Yom Tov. Tezvav, Tu B'Av, right? The greatest Yom Tov. I mean, well, the greatest Yom Tov, please stand up. And which one is it? Okay? So Chassidus explains, there's a certain unique thing that Rosh Hashanah has, and Sukkot has, and Pesach, and that no other Yom Tov has. And in that respect, is greater than all the other Yom Tovim. Even though L'cha'era, Shefa of Rosh Hashanah, Yira Tata, is not a mitzvah, it's only a minik. And Shefa of Rosh Hashanah, which is Yira Ilah, is a mitzvah. L'cha'era. Nevertheless, there's an advantage in Yira Tata of Elul over Yira Ilah of Rosh Hashanah. What's the advantage? Ki ha'yira v'abetel sheberosh Hashanah. Because the Yira and Betel of Rosh Hashanah, which is man, is Galus Malchusi is Barich, which is the time of the Hashem is revealing Himself, then Yira v'abetel is not unique. It's not something special. It's not a chiddush. Why? Kivin the kula kamei kula chashuv. Because everything compared to Hashem is nothing. And the closer you are to Hashem, you're more nothing. Arizashi Yisrael in bebitul yiri law bizman the Rosh Hashanah, when they're in the heichel of the Melech, is no chiddush. And the Rebbe is going to give a moshe from Atzilus and Bria. In other words, we learned already many, many times, there's a unique thing of something new. It might be lower than the thing which is not new, but nevertheless, there's a uniqueness that it's something unique. We said it a million times. You go on vacation, Your house is much more comfortable than the place you're going to. The food in your house is more accessible. You don't have to go crazy. Everything is more accessible, And now you have to pack before, and then you have to unpack and pack. You need a vacation when you come home from the vacation. So what's the purpose of vacation? It's something different. That's all. We said the parrot. The uniqueness of a parrot is a person talks much better than a parrot. What's unique? Because a bird talks, that's a chiddush. He said the time of Rosh Hashanah, when there's a gilui of Malchus, that Einaid Movadei, and then you have fear, big deal. I mean, that's what it is. You feel Elokus, of course you have Yira. The uniqueness of Elul is, it's Yira Tata, it's Melech Basada. You're going out to meet the king. There is no revelation of the king like Rosh Hashanah and Eichel Malchusay. So then when you have, even though it's Yira Tata, it's a lower level of Yira. It's not as comfortable, so to speak, like Yira Ilah, but nevertheless, there's a uniqueness in Yira Tata that Yira Ilah doesn't have. And like he's going to say now, Bedugma Bitul Shabbat Tzilas. The Bitul that the emanations of Atzilus have. He says, Ein B'zeh Chiddush. There's no uniqueness to that. Why? He says, because Atzilus Mer Gili Erin Tov. Atzilus is a revelation of godliness. Of course, you're bottled Telukus. The sphere of Chochmah, which is primarily the level of Bittul Chochmah, is Kayach Ma. Ein a Chiddush Vishu Chochmah Elevada Hilvein Zulosoi. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. Mikosh Kein HaBittul the Keser, which is even higher than Atzilus. So the Bittul is much greater. Or let's give another mashal over here. We have a Beinani and a Tzaddik. We mentioned this the other day, A Tzaddik's a much higher level than a Beinani. Killed his Yetzer Hara, hired Tzaddik Gomer, transformed the Yetzer Hara to Yetzer Tov. Beinani struggling the whole time with the Yetzer Hara. And the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, the older you get, the stronger the Yetzer Hara, because it's ate more and drank more, it gets stronger. So, what's the uniqueness of a Beinani over a Tzaddik? Even though tzaddik is a higher level, but a Beinoni is much stronger struggle than the struggle of a tzaddik. So that's unique, the bittul, okay? Or to paraphrase it, bittul b'metzias, meaning I don't exist, whatever the master wants is what I want, is not as great of a bittul as when I have my own will and I give it up. Level-wise, bittul of Eved Nemon, yeah, bittul to the Balo Ratzin, like we learned, bittul to the Eved Nemon is a much higher level than Eved Pashut. He's so connected to the master, he doesn't even have a will of his own. But in Avodah, there's an advantage of Eved Pashut over Eved Nemon. That's why it's in various stories, tzaddikim would tell people, I'm jealous of you because you have this test and you're given the powers to overcome this test when I don't have that test, so therefore I don't have the powers from Hashem to overcome that test. So you have powers that I don't have. So I'm jealous of you. But I've been told people. I'm jealous of you because you have power that I don't have. That doesn't mean the guy's a higher level than the Rebbe. But in Avodah, there's a certain uniqueness of it. So in a certain level, the Yira of Elul, even though it's Yira Tato, is a greater level of Bittul than the Yira Ilah when the king is revealed. So of course you're in other words, to paraphrase it in a different language, to be religious in Meir Sha'arim, or a borough park, or Crown Heights, or Yiddish neighborhoods, yeah, it's much easier than being a religious Jew in Yehupetz, where there's nobody around. Of course it's easier to be but being a religious Jew in Yehupetz is a much greater level than being a Jew from Jew in Williamsburg.